What is one lie you must keep up that you hate, but it covers up a much bigger frick up? Not so much a fuck up, but my boyfriend and I tell our families we met through old high school friends. We actually met online and by random chance we went to the same high school and have some of the same friends. My boyfriend and I don't tell people we met online either. We tell people we met through mutual friends, which is true. We leave out that these mutual friends were in an MMORPG. Q. Why don't I have a car? A. Well, I could either afford a car or my own place. Real answer. DUI. Note, I actually can drive, but I am truly better off without one, since the lie answer is somewhat true. Cars are expensive as crap when you add up all the costs over the long run. Plus it makes me think twice about where I go. In New Mexico, having a DUI is a normal thing. The important thing is that you learned your lesson and it becomes something you can grow from and learn from. Don't avoid letting yourself have the chance at driving again because you're afraid you're going to do it again, but decide you're just not going to do it. My boyfriend and I met through friends who went to his college. The story never really got too detailed, but it was detailed enough where I'm sure I've missed details before when telling the story for a second or third time. Nobody has questioned it as of yet. The truth is, I was lonely and bored and kinda stupid, so I put up a Craigslist ad. He was lonely and wanted to frick and he liked my ad. I don't think I'll ever come clean to the real world. This girl that used to be my best friend once broke a really old dish that we had. That was given to my father by his grandmother, and her mother before her, and so on. I took the blame because I knew my parents would have asked her to pay for it, because it was pretty valuable. I should have told them though, because she turned out to be a huge C. That I can't smell anything. I told my best friend that in 3rd grade to sound cool. The problem is that he has a photographic memory. I'm trained to never make a comment about smells. My parents even think I can't smell. They paid for a doctor to look at it. The doctor said, "Oh, sometimes this happens, it's probably nothing to worry about." Worst doctor ever. I can't get out of it. Ever. I'm stuck. The real twist would be if your friend told you he had a photographic memory just to sound cool, and now you're both sweating, hoping the other doesn't find out you're just a regular person. The scars on my wrist are from cutting myself on a broken window. Actually, they're from an X-Acto blade when I was at the lowest point in my life. It was many years ago, and my kids don't need to know about it, since I got my crap together and I live a very happy life. When my boyfriend and I got back together, yay, after a rough breakup, he learned I had put his name on my key list, a list of people the building's doorman is allowed to let into my place without my explicit permission. My BF brags about it to others. I couldn't tell him the reason he was on the list was I needed someone I trust to find me if I went through with killing myself. Every time he brings it up triumphantly, I remember the empty nothingness, pointlessness of the unobserved life. Recently I stayed in Costa Rica with a few of my friends and our tour group. I managed to convince someone at an animal broke a patch of the hotel patio shingles and they did the rest for me. In reality, I had been walking across the roof to a friend's balcony and that wild animal may or may not have been my leg, and maybe also my torso because I fell through the roof. I had my friends pull me up and I just ran down to the room below and dragged them out because I heard something out back. I failed all my college courses in my first year due to severe depression. I managed to fool my parents into thinking that I passed with flying colors, though I am on academic probation and it will take every ounce of my being to continue this coming semester. If it's still an option, take time off. Check out your school's leave of absence policy. Juggling school and depression isn't fun, isn't healthy, and doesn't have a high success rate. Lie. I felt like Facebook was just taking up too much of my time, so I quit. Truth. Holy crap. All of my friends are total dongs and morons on the internet. My dad told me on my 19th birthday that he had fathered a girl with another woman. He never mentioned that he was currently playing a role in the kid's life and I never asked. He had never told my older brother and sister, but my mother knew. They were going to tell us all at one point, but he died before that ever happened. It was 7 years later. I act like I don't know about it. My sister somehow found out about it and was hinting about it at a family function, but never actually said anything. It gives me some small measure of satisfaction that I knew something this big before my big, nosy, shithead of a sister did. If she brought it up, I was fully prepared to not give a crap and just carry on. It hasn't changed my life in any way, really. I've never had any intention of meeting my half-sister and probably give as much of a crap about them as they do about me. Maybe less. Dropping that I know about it to my mother would probably cause her a considerable amount of grief at having to deal with it again. Not worth it. Twist, ends up unintentionally marrying his half-sister. I have 3. Each one was the worst in its own way. The day my father was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, I cried. I'm not a crier, or a very emotional person. I'm more Vulcan-like, I guess. Not saying I'm a hard butt, just that I'm good at keeping up appearances. That caused me to lose it. That's the impact it had on me. The worst lie I maintained was that there was any improvement, or ever going to be any improvement, no matter what medicine he took. My parents were both hopeful. My family was hopeful. People prayed left and right, and every good day was met with praise Jesus and maybe it isn't Lou Gehrig's after all. They basically forced me to say maybe they were right plenty of times. I didn't want to tell them the truth. He isn't going to get better. He's going to become more paralyzed until he can't get enough oxygen. Then he's going to die. Even the day he went out for a hospice weekend, my mom and I were his only caregivers 24/7 for years. I wanted to pull my mom to the side and say, this is CO2 poisoning. He can't breathe out enough and it's building up in his system. Say your goodbyes. His time is short. I recognized his change in behavior. I recognized his symptoms. Even the nurse at the hospice place wouldn't have any of it. I could barely open my mouth. Well, he died that day, just like I knew they would, and I couldn't very well go and tell him goodbye. I did the best I could without alerting him to the possibility of it. There's 2 lies, I guess. The third lie is that I hated to see him go. No, I loved to see him go. I didn't cry when he died. His suffering was finally over. Almost every minute of his last 6 months was heck for him. He could barely move anything at all. I mourned when he was still alive, but not enough people in my life would understand that for me to ever tell anyone I knew in real life. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I've never told anyone this and don't suspect I ever will again. Not a current lie, but one I plan on when I get married. My family is uber Catholic and likes the whole be fruitful and multiply thing. I got my tubes tied years ago and they have no idea. When the time comes that they start pestering me about having kids, I plan to fake infertility or a miscarriage. Seems drastic, but it's literally the only way I can think of that won't turn into a family war while making em uncomfortable enough to not ask again. I was grounded once and was playing games on my computer. My mom stepped in and asked me what I was doing. I freaked out and just said I was masturbating. She just said go to bed and left. That I dropped my old Nintendo DS because I was walking around while playing. I actually ripped it apart in a fit of rage. I forgot about the application deadline to my backup law school, so now that I was rejected from all the other ones and waitlisted to one, I just say that I was rejected. It's way too embarrassing to say that I forgot to submit my application because I would have gotten into that school for sure. I'd rather lie than get yelled at by my parents for being so irresponsible. Here's to another year of living at home instead of moving out to go to school. As a recent graduate, think twice about attending unless your backup school is Georgetown or better. Otherwise it's a massive gamble. About 3 years ago I tried to kill myself by running my car off the road. I have since been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was hospitalized. I tell everyone the reason I don't drive is because I have seizures. It checks out. I had a seizure, ran off the road, lost my license. It also works because many medications prescribed for bipolar disorder are also prescribed for seizures and epilepsy. So, there's my big secret. I kind of felt this way when my kids still believed in Santa Claus. I mean, once you've told them that this guy is going to come into your house to eat your cookies and leave you gifts, the smaller lies just start piling up. I broke my roommate's bong. He thought he must have broken it while cleaning it, so I went with that. I do want to pay him back though. Give him a new one as a gift. I guess this lie wasn't made by me, but I keep it going because I'm too afraid to tell anyone the real truth. I was always a good football player, starting center on a pretty storied high school team. My junior year we got a new offensive line coach and he was a very terrible man. I think he was taking out his hatred for his sons on us guys. He made us do a lot of terrible things, including doing bear crawls through a horse trough filled with about 6 inches of crap. I've been through the typical hazing in sports, but this was borderline abuse. I quit the team a week before our first game and gave no explanation why. No one would believe anything I said about the coach anyways. I lost all the men in my life I had come to know as father figures, and many people I had called friends. About a year later I found out that the coach's wife had started a rumor that I was a drug addict who chose addiction over sports. I let the lie go and chose never to explain the real reason. Whenever I see the coaches or players around town they can't even look me in the eyes. My last 2 years in high school are the worst in my entire life and I've been depressed ever since. This was 4 years ago. I know this doesn't really follow the thread exactly and will probably get lost, but it is a lie I choose to keep up, for whatever reason. I tell all my friends that I made an active decision to leave my school's pharmacy program to pursue a career in forensics. Truth is I got academically dismissed because of a really rough semester, but the school offered me a slot in the bachelor's program, which I took gratefully. I hated the pharmacy program but I tried my hardest and hit a rough patch. I know these people would look at me like I was a total idiot if they knew I didn't make the cut, and it's just not something I wanna deal with. I've been to New Brunswick. It's 1,000 miles away and has become my parents' favorite summer vacation destination, and they make sure to take lots of pictures and tell me all about the history because they think I've never been. I spent a week there when I was 19, but I don't say anything because I was living at home at the time and didn't want them to know I was visiting a 32-year-old I knew for a month on the internet. They thought I was house sitting for my friend's aunt. My husband constantly teases me for sliding on ice and hitting a tree with my car a few years ago, so I put up with jokes about how I'm such a horrible driver all the time. The truth is I was trying to commit suicide but must have chickened out and swerved at the last minute. I dropped out of a private high school and moved to SoCal to pursue other goals in life. Needless to say, without even a diploma I was not gonna get anywhere. So, I started to research and build a resume and portfolio based on my interests. I ended up meticulously building a faux life that everyone I was around started to believe. I told my family in another state that I had got my GED, passed 2 years at a community college and then attended a 4-year university and graduated with a degree in history. This wasn't all at once. I let them know what I was doing as I was doing it. It all went so smoothly. I then got a job at a museum as an event coordinator and make $56K a year. I have no high school diploma, no college education, nothing. All I have are excellent work references. The jobs I did get I made sure I did well, and apparently that was enough for them to hire me at my current job. I am attractive and well spoken, professional in appearance and actually very intelligent. I was always afraid that they would check my school references, but so far it's never been brought up. Apparently, work references and experience mean a great deal more than where you went to school these days, and if you have glowing references you are pretty much set. Sometimes it gets stressful and I find myself bothered by it at night. I can't tell anybody that I get into a relationship with who I really am. Even my family thinks I am somebody I am not. Nobody knows. Nobody. It gets very lonely sometimes. That I love my family. I feel no connection to them besides spending all 19 years of my life with them. It doesn't feel good. Why my dad's freeze plugs needed to be replaced on his truck. I made the excuse that I revved the engine too high so they burst. Instead of, I went four-wheeling on school grounds and bottomed out and busted some stuff. The mechanic had my back. Sounds like he needed more than just freeze plugs. I revved a BMW i6 so high it needed a new block. Piston rod snapped and went through the side. I was actually jogging back from a frat party hammered one night and I tripped over a curb with my hands in my pockets. It was cold, and I landed on my face resulting in huge cuts, now scars. I told my parents that I fell off a bike that I borrowed from a friend, and I've had to tell the rest of my extended family the same thing at family events and such. It kills me every time I have to tell the lie. I told my dad I graduated early when I dropped out of high school in my junior year. My parents are divorced and I lived with my mom. Now that I'm almost done with my bachelor's degree, I guess it doesn't really matter, but I still feel really bad about lying to him and most of the family about it. I'm fine. I'm not fine. I'm a crazy, introverted lazy bugger who long ago decided it would be easier to coast along with life and forget all thoughts of what I want in order to make it easier because life was super crappy. Now that I'm on my own, I realize that I have no idea what I want. I have no great passion for life and I occasionally see no reason to wake up every day. I don't talk to my friends. I don't plan amazing adventures. I don't do anything particularly noteworthy. I strongly suspect I have a legitimate mental problem, but I don't care enough to go and find out. I do not, in fact, care about much of anything. This worries me deeply. So now I'm surreptitiously trying to find ways to get myself interested in anything at all, as well as forcing myself to be more social, while fighting the calm little buzz in the back of my brain that tells me to sleep. However, I can't very well tell this to any of my family members, because half of them are in the same dang boat. One's paranoid and depressed, another's bipolar, one was really ambitious but is now entering a state of apathy, and if I mention it to any of them it would be just one more of a monumental pile of crap they have to worry about. So whenever someone comes up to me, I simply say I'm fine because it's a lot easier on everybody else. I suppose one weird side effect of this is that I am, apparently, a funny person. Apparently talking about all the crap that depresses you in an upbeat tone is hilarious. This explained so much about stand-up comedy. I can't show you that blue party hat right now. I lent it to a friend of mine. Being that annoying crap kid can really come back to haunt you every couple of years. Auntie is in jail for dealing drugs at the casino to maintain her habit of gambling at the casino. Only I and some other relatives know this. We tell everyone else she went overseas for vacation. I used to tell my parents I was going to hang at a friend's house, but I would just go smoke weed by myself and wait an hour or so before going home so it looked like I was actually at a friend's. My best friend served jail time for some pretty extreme vandalism that I did our senior year of high school. His drinks are always paid for and I'm a phone call away for anything he needs for the rest of his life. I got into college and he didn't. He's the reason that I still got to go to college. Hopefully you're as good of a friend to him as he was to you. Sometimes being a good friend is more than covering a tab. Not saying you aren't a good friend, but I have a similar debt to a good friend and he tells me that tangible items are less valuable than a nice relaxing conversation. I did LSD with my boyfriend the day after I did MDMA. This probably wasn't the best decision I could have made, as it gave me really low serotonin levels, and I just felt really confused and down. The following day, after I did LSD, I was alarmed to notice gaps in my memory, as well as feeling completely emotionless. I couldn't bring myself to feel anything at all for my boyfriend, and it was terrifying. My friends all started calling me that day, because they knew I spent the night with my new boyfriend and they were all concerned because they didn't trust him. They're also very, very anti-drugs. I couldn't very well tell them I did drugs with said boyfriend, or they would possibly call the police, tell my parents, etc. So I told them I fell and hit my head to explain the missing memory gaps and missing emotions. It all came back to me in a week or so, but to this day they think I got a concussion and my boyfriend wasn't responsible enough to take me to the hospital for it, which, I guess is slightly better than the truth, but not by much. Just a tip. If that ever happens again, stop by your local grocery store that has a vitamin section and pick up some 5-HTP. You'll feel a lot better. Lie. I put a big gouge in an expensive live sound subwoofer after borrowing it for a gig. Truth. I mistakenly took the wrong subwoofer home from a gig. I didn't notice until I was about to give it back. I used to serve at a major chain restaurant. When I messed up or forgot to bring something to a table, it was never my fault. I blame the kitchen, the bartender, the busboy, anything but admit I made a mistake. So this particular night I get sat a three-top comprised of 2 adults and a boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old. The parents order their drinks and ask for a kid-sized milk for their son. I bring them an adult-sized milk by mistake and the dad says, "Oh, excuse me, but we wanted a kid-sized milk." I lie, "Yeah, we're actually all out of kid cups, so that's all we have. I'm sorry, my manager forgot to place the order for them this week." He believes my story and everything is fine. But then I get sat in 8 top with 4 kids and 4 adults. I'm forced to carry on this charade to the next table, being out of kid cups, because they're in plain sight of the 3 top, and the next table, and the next. TLDR. Found out I was pregnant after hooking up with someone who was more or less a stranger. Forced myself to starve and purge myself so that my body was physically incapable of nurturing an unborn child. Never told anyone. Decided to make a throwaway for this. This is less of a lie as it is an omission of the truth, but it's still relevant and still kills me to cover it up. I was in San Francisco for a couple of weeks the summer before my senior year of high school. My parents had let me go on this trip knowing that I would be nearby to some close family friends. But in all honesty, I spent the whole time just kicking it with one of my closest girlfriends. I had the time of my life and I don't regret a single second there. But I did hook up with a guy several times. Each time, we were pretty drunk. I'm confident we used protection. In fact, I'm 110% sure we did. Anyways, I went back home, but still kept in touch with this guy and my other friends back in San Francisco. But I started feeling sick a few weeks later. My senior year was starting, and I couldn't get the nagging thought out of my mind that maybe, just maybe I was pregnant. I didn't want to be, but I didn't rule out the possibility. So I went down to the drugstore, bought a few tests, and tried 1, 2, 3, and all came back with the same result. I was, without a doubt, pregnant. Now, during this time I was still really ill. I was still preoccupied with my habits of anorexia and bulimia, and no way could I freaking be pregnant because I was too young. I was about to go through my senior year of high school and I would probably gain so much weight. Understand that I was really ill, and as fricked up as those reasons sound, it was exactly what was going through my mind. So, for the next 2 weeks, I restricted my meals so much that I was consuming under 300 calories a day. I exercised enough to burn off all those calories, and then some. And whatever I did eat, I always followed up with a bottle cap-sized portion of ipecac, a liquid that induces vomiting. Most of that time is a blur, just like most of the years when I was ill. But I do remember that after those 2 weeks, I took a few more tests, and I wasn't pregnant anymore. I try not to think too hard about what happened, because the idea that I was totally comfortable with this just a few years ago terrifies me to no end. I never told the guy I hooked up with that I was pregnant. I never told him about the decisions I made. I never even made him knowing an option. I got rid of a problem quietly because I was scared and too young to have a kid of my own. I haven't told anyone I've dated, or actually, anyone I know, since then. I keep it because it wouldn't benefit anyone by knowing what the truth is now. I still feel terrible about it, and probably always will. Caught my uncle smoking M in his bathroom hours before a family reunion. He started bawling and begging me not to tell anyone. I didn't, but I forced him to go to rehab. That was last year. Now he's out, has a steady job, and has been clean ever since. Everyone in my family thinks he wanna get away from a local radio station. I have a doozy. 1. I have a kid born at 24 weeks gestation. 16 weeks early. She weighed 1 pound 8 ounces. It was 14 years ago. She's profoundly disabled, mostly developmentally. She doesn't speak, has autism. 2. Why was she born so early? Unclear. The doctors say I just went into labor. Doctors say I had a very high count of E. coli in my birth canal. That's their only clue of what might have been wrong. They usually then say we'll probably never know for sure. I know for sure. 3. 14 years ago, I was in an argument with my husband on the phone and ran to the store to get some ice cream to settle my nerves. On the way to the store, my stomach felt queasy. I didn't stop. Focused on ice cream. I felt worse and worse and I still bought the ice cream, then ran to my car to get home in time to relieve the coming storm. I didn't make it. As I drove home, I had epic diarrhea. Sorry, nothing could be done. I just sat there, raced home and cleaned myself up. I was pregnant. There's zero doubt that I introduced a massive amount of E. coli into the birth canal, which led to her catastrophic early birth and now profound disability. If I'd gone home when I didn't feel well, it wouldn't have happened. If I'd gone to the bathroom at the store, it wouldn't have happened. If I'd done something else besides want ice cream after an argument, it wouldn't have happened. If I hadn't argued with my now ex-husband about whatever I don't remember what, it wouldn't have happened. She'll never be independent, never speak. My older daughter will have some responsibility for her whole life. People treat me with such respect and deference when they know how much care my daughter requires. I hate it. I'm not to be pitied. I feel overwhelming guilt about my daughter's life. How she was robbed of a normal life because of me and my selfishness. No one knows. I keep thinking this will ease the guilt, the sense of having this secret, the terrible desire to punish myself. It hasn't. I've made a weak attempt at having a life. My marriage ended, but I date someone. I'm overweight. Only sorta. I lost some weight 3 years ago. I look much older than my age. I struggle to still care about what happens to me, although I know I need to care for her as long as possible. I resist respite from the care of my daughter as I don't think she gets a break from her situation. I'm sure people have no idea. I don't socialize with other parents of disabled kids, unless they too caused their kid's disability. They aren't in my same shoes. My college roommate never came clean about this for close to 8 years, though I found out about 2-3 years after the incident. We both earned MacBook Pros doing those websites where you complete offers and they promise a free MacBook. Yes, those are legit, but they have gotten ridiculously harder since then. That's another story for another time. He wanted to sell his, listed it for $2K on eBay and sold it in a few days. When it cleared his account, he packed it up and shipped it to Russia. Literally 4 days later, PayPal told him it was a fraudulent transaction and took the $2K back. He couldn't stop the shipment, and it was gone. He told everyone he sold it and even went out partying like he made the $2K. LOL dude. It's not that the apple juice wasn't his mom's fault. It's that his suicide isn't her fault. Especially considering the lyrics go like, "Remember the time that I spilled the cup of apple juice in the hall? Please tell mom this is not her fault." I adopted my second dog at a city shelter. She was even on sale. I call her my discount dog. I had thrown around the idea of getting a second dog, but wasn't really ready for it. I went to the shelter with my friend who was looking to see if they had any ferrets in. I went through the dog run room just to look and fell in love with her crap-eating grin. I tested her thoroughly and gave her every single opportunity to fail. But at the end of it, I paid the $50 and she was mine. My parents never would have accepted a dog that I willingly took on. So instead of me being the irresponsible person, I turned myself into a hero by telling them I saw a group of teenage kids with her on a chain beating the crap out of her. I convinced them to hand her over to me. I told my folks I was still unsure if I was keeping her or not. As time went on, they just kind of dropped me rehoming her and she was finally part of the family. That was 7 years ago and I still haven't told them the truth. That I just enjoyed a good cry once in a while as a kid. I've been thanatophobic since I was 7 years old. Mum loves telling friends the story about her soppy daughter who liked to cry occasionally for no reason. I don't have the heart to tell her the sinister truth behind it. She's much happier thinking it was just a cute little quirk, something I outgrew as I got older. She has no idea how many nights I spent in utter anguish, wailing into my pillow like I didn't even have a day left to live. Over the years, the panic attacks came less frequently, but I would, and still do, have bouts of complete despair, days or weeks at a time, where I just can't shut it out of my mind. It's been a long time, and I've developed coping strategies. It doesn't stop it from happening, but I recover much quicker from the pain. The realizations I experience never get any easier, but they have gotten less frequent, and have less control over me now. But it's sort of ironic. My mum is my best friend. I tell her everything, and she would help me with any problem. But I can't tell her this, and never will. I love her too much to burden her with something so futile. I didn't really read the title very well, so this isn't really a frick up, but it's written now and it's nice to have the occasional therapeutic release. I'm not allowed to have a dog at my apartment. We've trained her on puppy pads and taught her not to bark. If we talk about her outside the apartment, we say cat instead. Our cat was approved, but when asked if we could get the puppy, they said not at this time. 3 of our neighbors have dogs, though, so if anyone complains about noise, we can blame the neighbors' dogs. It's not like anyone has ever seen her. I accidentally came across a series of emails on my dad's iPhone when I was helping him with it. That is serious evidence he had an affair with someone in May of this year. My parents have been married for almost 20 years and I can't tell anyone because my mom would be heartbroken and I don't want to destroy the family, but it's killing me inside. I've been faking color blindness for going on 4 years. I told it as a joke in high school to make myself seem interesting, because I'm not that interesting of a person. Now most of my friends believe it and only a few know the truth. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.